Why are you so wrong about Digibro? This question comes with the advent of this video in particular, in which Digi angrily, drunkenly rants about the JoJo character designs. It's over the top and absurd, and people are upset over it? Huh? Digi is one of, if not the most controversial figure when it comes to AniTube, and I both think he has been very unfairly maligned because of it, but also is quite undeserving of the label in comparison to people who have actually done genuinely scummy things beyond just sharing an opinion on the internet. What I see, as someone who floats around the various circles of AniTube and AniTwitter as a, until now, mostly silent observer, is a willful misinterpretation of his work. People don't want to understand what he's saying or even try. He put out a video on his second channel called Ranting About the Rise of Homosexual Anime, and people couldn't have been quicker to come in and dunk on him with their oh-so-smug posts. Sure, the title raises an eyebrow, but if you dare to watch even a second of it, you'll find that he's actually praising this aspect. It's a part of a patron-requested videos format, and the word ranting is more diverse than you think it is. People make an assumption, draw conclusions, and then create a feedback loop in their circles whenever they see anything that reaffirms their initial assumption, with no particular care, it seems, for whether or not what they are saying holds any actual truth. Let's turn back to the JoJo video and address that one directly. For context, JoJo Part 5 won Best Character Designs in the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. Digi had been doing a livestream watching it and getting drunk, and was very strongly against JoJo winning, while chat completely disagreed with him. This video is a product of that. Now for the video itself. So in the first second, he literally starts the video with, "I am not okay."
I am fucking not okay!
And has the same text as the only line in the description. He says this with a huge smile on his face as he shouts at the top of his lungs about an anime character design. Does that face look like one filled with vicious rage? Well, whatever. I guess no one has any people skills and can't read faces, so let's move on to the next point. Throughout this video, he makes pretty much no real points whatsoever, essentially pointing at some footage of it and screaming, "Look at it, and how are you okay with this?" What makes the video funny is how far he turns it up. It's a calculated rage, but that is entertaining nonetheless. This is the beginning of a particular point, and I want to acknowledge it as such, but I'll address it a bit later. There's a particular line he says that really stands out to me.
How can you think not okay things are okay?
When I see a line like that, in a context like this, I'm cued into the fact that, hey, maybe I shouldn't be taking this so seriously. If this video was a sincere analysis, presumably one would establish their own expectations for good character designs, perhaps by way of some examples, and then follow this up with where JoJo fails to meet those standards. But it's very clearly not. Digi never establishes any point of argument. Everything just amounts to, "Look at it, and I don't understand." I say this because if you've actually seen Digi's sincere analysis, you should be able to recognize that he is capable of doing all those things I mentioned previously. He is extremely critical when it comes to character designs and outfits, and is able to voice himself well in the matter, always going out of his way to point out little details pertaining to such. Either in the case of his great praise and small critiques when it comes to Log Horizon, or why he thinks the designs in Steins Gate work but the ones in Zero don't. It's an angle that he can explore adeptly, but he didn't. He chose not to, because that's not the point of the video. There's been a recent trend among various corners of AniTube, AniTwitter, and other circles I pass through that honestly I just don't get. This perception of negative content as being inherently objectionable and worse than positive content. Neither has any particular inherent edge over the other so long as the creator is not intentionally trying to action their fanbase to harass others, which is most often not the case. Why is positive content better? Because it makes you feel good? Plenty of people find a lot of enjoyment and value in negative ones themselves. I'm not going to explain to you the variety of reasons people watch analytical videos, as that could be another video in itself. but you should at least be able to recognize that there are a lot of different reasons and appeals to analytical videos. To me, hating, and frequently voicing said hate for negative analytical videos, is about as absurd as inherently hating all sad movies and being equally vocal about such. I do understand the frustration, especially a couple years ago when negative content far outnumbered the positive ones, though I don't think that bears too much truth anymore. It is a lot easier to get traction with a hot take though, but the reason is because people are interested in that. People watch what strikes them. That's just how we work. It's not something to blame creators for. So if you want your love letter to have more views, well, you better figure out how to grab someone's eyes. Another notable factor is that just because a video's premise is negative does not necessarily mean the video in its entirety is. Digi's Steins Gate Zero videos, for instance, are literally called Steins Gate Zero Sucks, but he spends a very significant portion of the series praising and analyzing all the places the original Steins Gate worked, why he appreciated it so much then and now, and then going into how he thinks Zero fails at matching those aspects. I have no issue with someone simply choosing not to watch negative videos. I myself choose to mostly consume neutral or positive content. But my issue arises when someone tries to act like they're better for doing so, despite there being no inherent benefit to one or the other, especially when they deride creators and their work purely on the basis of the title alone, without making any attempt to actually engage with what they're saying. It's shallow, petty posturing, and I hate it. So, with that said, let me present to you yet another reason why Digi's JoJo video is fine, not meant to be taken seriously, and why this particular branch of negative videos has a genuine appeal. Why do we consume art? I'm sure everyone has their own reasons, but here's my hypothesis for why the vast majority engage. It makes us feel emotions. Experiencing strong emotional responses is a stimulating process. Whether it be fear, anger, excitement, joy, or sadness, we can find a plethora of works that aim to make the audience experience any number of these. Art is a context through which we can engage with feelings we would not otherwise, by way of a heightened presentation. We react to things in any manner of different ways, and are endlessly trying to rationalize our own emotions, come to an understanding of how we express ourselves and how we should express ourselves. So, when we see presented to us a reaction that defies societal standards, it is engaging and, in the case of rage, often funny. Extreme anger over minute, unimportant subjects is funny, and yet another subject well worth a deeper look, but again, I don't want to get too unfocused here. To put it simply, by using an emotion usually reserved for something serious in such a way, it creates a humorous contrast, appeals to the sense of one's visceral reactions to things, and to me at least, draws attention to how ridiculous and absurd existence in itself is. Digi's video is a conduit for doing all those things. There's no real substantial argument, despite his ability to present such if he so desired. It's just pure anger over something so simple, stupid, and meaningless. I mean, there is some truth to it. He really does not like the character designs. But he's just turned that knob up to 10 because it's far more entertaining that way. And what's the point if we're not having fun with it? When I see guys like Subtitled Anime take every opportunity to talk trash and say they don't understand why anyone likes this dude, to then completely ignore any people actually presenting good reasons to appreciate his content, I can't help but see the pot calling the kettle black. If you want to present real arguments, I'd be down. I think Digi is an extremely flawed creator. I don't think all his content is good despite being a longtime fan, and I would be very interested in some well-voiced critiques as I find them sorely lacking. But essentially saying Digi bad on repeat while being completely dismissive to any possible substance behind his arguments is like his JoJo video but worse. It's not funny. Yeah, you gonna talk trash? Well, I guess I'll call you out then. I had a long argument with Under the Scope that ultimately amounted to him dismissing the value of negative content and rejecting out of hand any of the arguments I presented, just saying he wanted to hold on to his assumption, or rather, impression of who Digi is. Comments like from Abi or famously RC Anime, where they snidely comment on his 13-part series on the Asterisk score, clearly not having watched it, because the series covers so much beyond the scope of the Astro score as something within a vacuum. Again, it's just an excuse to feel better than someone else, an obnoxious holier-than-thou attitude that doesn't actually contribute anything meaningful. The final angle, which is one I feel like I shouldn't have to address, but that somehow, despite Digi repeating it again and again and again, people just can't get through their thick skulls. Digi does not believe in objective criticism. He is a staunch defender of the subjective and makes no claim to be presenting any position but his own, to be representing anyone but himself. Heck, you just look one video over from the JoJo video, and you see him arguing that critical authority shouldn't exist. And somehow people still act like Digi is here to tell people their tastes are bad and that they're objectively wrong, just because he doesn't have a qualifier every other sentence. You can disagree with his arguments, sure. If you think he's misrepresenting a show, that's well worth some critique. But what I see, at least, is that people are just upset that the man is confident in his own opinions, something that I wish others were more able to do so. Occasionally friends ask me to look over their scripts, as I do with them, and the number one thing I find myself telling them to cut is constant, unnecessary qualifiers. From I thinks and in my opinions, to them outright begging the viewer to actually engage with the content. As far as making a point goes, it's redundant and unnecessary, but I think it speaks to a genuine and justifiable fear towards having any sort of confidence in expressing your thoughts, because people will decide that that means you're telling them what to think. A brief side point here before I wrap up. Caribou-kun has a Twitter thread on it I'll link in the description, but it is extremely annoying that a lot of anti-Twitter uses stuff like this as an excuse to lump every anti-tuber together and act like they're all bad and vapid, while never taking any opportunity to seek out, share, or discuss the videos that are positive, good, and well-crafted. In conclusion, a TLDR for those that skipped around: stop intentionally misrepresenting people, stop drawing conclusions based on titles and hearsay, and stop posturing, please. I hate that I constantly feel the need to play defense for Digi, but if people would stop being so wrong all the time, I wouldn't need to do so. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, maybe subscribe, share it around, leave a like. Those are cool things I hear. If you want to support what I do, you can do so on Patreon at patreon.com/corereviews. Special thank you to my patrons Talon, Frogus, and Roggle. I know this video is a little different, but I just felt the need to weigh in on this while it was relevant. I've got a bigger analysis video coming later that I hope you'll enjoy. See you in the next one.